eyes, I recorded 2 months in the life of Victoria Nalango Namusisi. She's a rare and gifted woman from Uganda, which is located in East Africa. She is the founder and director of Bright Kids Children's Home, where children are provided with desperately needed food, shelter, warmth, education, and a dose of much-needed love. Without hesitation, I can truly say I've never met anyone so completely devoted to the needs and well-being of children.
Number one. One. Two. 3.
Her focus is to develop and provide a safe, loving, and secure environment for abandoned children. These children were ravaged by war, poverty, and disease. And for many, Victoria is the only parent they have or really will ever know. She provides the only home some of the children have ever known. Quite literally, 95% of the children living at Bright Kids today were saved from almost certain death because of Victoria's personal commitment and sacrifice. What I saw and experienced was nothing short of miraculous. Ugandan smiles were recorded everywhere. The strength of Victoria shone through the eye of my camera, and soon it enveloped everyone she touched. It truly was a privilege to be a part of her vision and growing family of almost 70 bright kids.
When you meet Victoria, you meet someone who is a mother, someone who is a doctor, someone who is everything in life that you would want to be with her for the rest of your life.
She's my mom, she's my dad, she's my uncle, she's my auntie, she's everything to me.
She should be known worldwide of what she's done. It's just been because she didn't do it for herself. She didn't say, I want to do this so that everybody else is going to look at me. She talks about these children, one human being helping another human being. A child that has no clothes on or just rags, dirty. You know, we walk down the street, we see people like that. She stops, she wants to help them. She wants to give them a hope and a future, and she sees a hope and a future in their eyes.
To me, what stood out most is just this idea that she really has no obligation to do this. Like, she isn't an employee of a state-run thing. Like, she just is the same as any of us. And I mean, I think it always reminded me of, I think it was that Robert Kennedy quote of, like, if not us, who, and if not now, when. Like, she is putting that into practice.
I think what Victoria is doing is amazing. In a country that lacks resources, she finds resources. In a country that is very customary in terms of suppressing voice, she has a very individual voice that tells the government what is missing. And on top of it, gives these kids a real hope that I think at some level it is going to count as a very positive advantage that they had, and unfortunately many others in Uganda in their situations won't have, because they won't have a Victoria to look up to.
My parents were from a very humble beginning. My father and mother really worked hard, but above all, my father worked very hard. You know, it rained on him. That's why I was telling you I would hate sitting out on the water when it's raining, because this is what my father never wanted me to go through. My father, after growing up, realized that it was hard work if somebody didn't have any education. He saw his friends who remained in school were better off. So he worked hard on the lake, you know, fishing, growing bananas. He would get these smoked fish and supply them to the schools where we went. Then the poor man would just get a balance after they have deducted our tuition. And God bless him, I always thank him so much, because he even encouraged us a lot. I was always getting surprised why somebody who didn't want to go to school would encourage us a lot. He would tell us that there is nothing I can give you, but what I can give you is education, because I don't want you to suffer the way I'm suffering. My father would look very black, and I was wondering why we are brown and our father is very black, because he was there. When it rains on him. When it is shining on him. But he has to do it day and night for the sake of giving us an education and giving us a better life. Our mother, meanwhile, was growing sweet potatoes you know. And I remember one day asking her why, when she was making my face, you know, like trimming my face, she tried to clean it a bit, and her hands were so rough. I said, Mommy, you are hurting me. Why are your hands so rough? And she said, you know what, from packing the sweet potatoes, because she could stay like 2 days packing bags and bags of sweet potatoes, because they have to be taken to school and they have to be weighed, and they only get the balance after our tuition has been deducted. You know, you grow sweet potatoes, you work so hard in the garden for the sake of ensuring that your children have a better future than you had.
You're giving hope to children for a future. Probably 95% would be dead today had you not given them the chance. But how did this all begin?
First of all, my involvement in scouting.
Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts.
We had a conference in Geneva where we came out with strategic priorities for scouting for the next millennium.
This was Geneva, Switzerland?
That's where we have the headquarters of World Scouting. Mm-hmm. So I was lucky to be among 2 Africans invited to draw up the strategic priorities that we would follow. During those discussions, I again ended up being elected the head of the strategic priority number 4, which emphasizes taking scouting beyond schools to the vulnerable children who had no opportunity to go to school.
So the scouts were generally taken from the schools?
Yeah, in the past.
And if you could go to school, you could become a scout, but if you didn't go to school?
There was no opportunity for you to be a scout. Now we had come to realize that through scouting, there are so many vocational skills that we were passing out to young men and women, which we thought would be very beneficial to the children out of school. But unfortunately, there was no program that targeted them. So among our 7 strategic priorities at that time, we included reaching out. And reaching out just meant reaching out with scouting to wherever people were. And through that, when I returned back to Uganda, I met my chairman, the late Manuel Pinto, and I briefed him about the conference, and I briefed him about the assignments that I had been given, which included visiting Zambia and other places where the youth were suffering. But I told him that I couldn't go out to other countries before I started with my own country. So the following week, I just went and sat at the city square in Kampala, where most street kids gather in the afternoon. I don't know what they used to do there, but they would gather there. So I bought some bananas and sugar canes and went, and there's a tree which is like an umbrella. We call them umbrella trees in Uganda. So I sat under the umbrella tree with my bananas, with my sugar canes. And then they came near me and they were asking in their slang, very, very funny words, what was I doing in their place. So I explained to them that I'm your friend and I have come here to visit you. I want to know more about you and I want to recruit you into scouting.
There was a boy named Mehdi who met Victoria under an umbrella tree at the tender age of 10. He was a homeless street kid who had run away from home. And he had run away from home because he was constantly being beaten by his stepmother. He had lived and survived on the streets since the age of 5.
It was 1995, January 1st. Because they wanted to beat me at home, they used to beat me, for example, look at this leg. And I decided to run away from home. I was 10 because I had spent 5 years on the street. I had no money. But at that time, these big vehicles, they used to take young children for free. So I prepared myself, and because I didn't have what to put on, I had to steal the clothes for my young brother. Early in the morning on the 1st of January 1995, I boarded the bus to Kampala. But when I reached in the bus, then I didn't know where Kampala is, and I didn't know how it looked like. But inside my heart, I had this voice that, no, don't care. When you reach a step and you find there is no anybody left in the bus, that will be Kampala. If the bus could reach in the middle of the forest and there was no one left in the bus, and they decided to stop there. For me, I would have thought that that is Kampala. Because my intention of coming to Kampala, I wanted to get jobs. I thought that when I come to Kampala, I would just be given a job, because I was told in Kampala there are very many people. Whenever you want a job, you just ask and you are given a job. So they could say, no, don't take that boy. That boy is very wise. Those are street kids.
These young people knew that every day they would expect me to pass by here between 4:30 and 5:30.
You used to come and talk to us before we get something to eat. You encourage us to be good people, that maybe in the future we can become some very important people in the country. And after talking to us, encouraging us, we used to eat mangoes and sugar canes, popcorns, and at times rice. The time before she used to come, we used to go and eat from those garbage bins, that food which is being left by the people. Yeah. They eat and leave the leftovers. You fight with the dog, you fight with the birds to eat the same food. Now there was no any way of escaping the diseases that come from that environment, because we used to wash our eyes from those trenches, sewages. We wash from there. Then we used to eat this food. It has been left there for so many hours. We could come and eat that same food. So there was no any way of us escaping diseases, typhoid, cholera. You used to wake up in the morning, you slept with someone, and in the morning you find that person dead there. So when we saw Madame Victoria starting to come and give us food, give us what to eat, really we saw her our comforter.
When I first removed the kids from the streets, I started with the girls, because the girls were very vulnerable, you know. They had so many problems. They got pregnant on the streets, and in most cases, those responsible for the pregnancies were street boys. I took a decision to handle the girls first, and then the boys felt bad until we took a decision again in August 2000. I removed them and brought them up to my house, because I wanted to make sure that every day they had a meal to eat.
So our first meal was matoke, rice and meat. That was a miracle.
So this is where we really came from, Geneva to the streets, and that was the beginning of my children's home.
When did it go into the name Bright Kids?
Yeah, we moved to Bright Kids Uganda in 2008.
Oh, that's when we first came. Why did you change it?
When I was registering our name at the start, it was Sunrise Children's Villages. Then there was one time when I was so disappointed to find Sunrise Bar, a bar like a pub.
Alcohol.
Where people go and drink and so on.
That.
People were beginning to abuse the word sunrise, and I didn't want my children's home to be associated with the Sunrise Pub, Sunrise whatever. And I told the kids, I think the sun is already rising for us, and it has risen, and we have made a difference. Now we are going to be Bright Kids Uganda. And indeed, by the time we changed it to Bright Kids Uganda, the sun was already shining for most of my kids, because now I have teachers. Now I have people, former street boys who are married and comfortable, and they are working, they have an income. The Bible tells us that what you declare upon yourself is what you are going to be. If you declare upon yourself as a fool that I'm a fool, you will be a fool. I never tell my children that you are fools. Even when they annoy me and they do stupid things, I don't want to tell them that you are fools. No, because I don't want to plant it on them. I want them to grow up knowing they are bright, they are smart people. They are going to be somebody.
There's an African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. In 2008, my husband Lou and I visited Bright Kids for the first time. We were both immediately impressed with the work Victoria was doing and how many lives she was transforming for the better.
How I became involved with Bright Kids relates back to a friendship that I had going back to the 1960s with a man by the name of Manuel Pinto, We taught school together in Uganda, 66 to 68. We kept up contact. He then became involved in HIV/AIDS issues. He was the first commissioner for HIV/AIDS in Uganda. Unfortunately, as we were about to visit, we were 5 weeks away from a visit to him and to Uganda. He was killed in a fluke accident. His automobile rolled over him while he was trying to fix it. So as part of our visit to meet with his wife and kids, we were asked to just take a look at what he had been involved with, which was the Bright Kids.
So we went for an afternoon and we saw the children. We were seated around. We got into her compound and all the children gathered around us. And I guess because I've never experienced anything like this, that when you go to an event like this, you're just sort of there looking at everybody, and the impact of what these children represented now was not there at all. And so they sang us beautiful songs and welcoming songs, and they gave us food. It was just a lovely afternoon.
Our dear visitors, you're welcome. We have been waiting for you. Are you sure? I'm sure, and I know I'm ready to dance for you. Our dear visitors, you're welcome. We have been waiting for you. Are you sure? I'm sure, and I know I'm ready to dance for you.
After a few days, we had been in contact with some people who had known Victoria. Then they said, would you like to become involved?
From that point, we then began to think about ways in which this might be an attractive linkage with the Ford Institute, with the university, and with the graduate school. And the Ford Institute is basically a research and applied activities organization. Our students are professionally oriented. They are in the master or PhD programs. And so about in 2003, we received a grant from the Ford Motor Company, basically asking us to set up the Institute to look at human security issues. Human security starts with very basic needs: food, water, a place to shelter, and basically survival, whether it's individual violence, child victimized by parents or a father who's abusive, all the way to dangers that children encounter because of HIV/AIDS and the nature of the way it's passed on through, often through the mother to the child, all the way to conflict issues, as was the case when Bright Kids was started. And it evolved from there. I had been interested in getting back involved in Uganda. I had not been involved in recent years, so we started thinking about various modalities, one of which was the idea of the interns. And 3 years ago, we started having the interns go in. That basically made the whole process roll, because one of the things that happens with the interns is they get hooked. The interns that went over 2-3 years ago are still very much involved in the process. They're like an alumni group, and they maintain a cohesion.
Since I've returned from my internship working with Bright Kids Uganda, I've still been active with the organization. I keep in touch with Victoria all the time. And here in the States, we are trying to still work on some funding, still work on some projects, still updating the website, and all of those things can be done from a distance. So just because I left my work at Bright Kids Uganda has not stopped. I feel that now I'm part of the family, and those children will always be in my life, and I'm definitely planning on a return trip.
As soon as I was there that first year, it was clear that I felt like I fit. You know, I consider these people my family. Victoria and I are in constant communication about, children that are sick, whether or not somebody has a baby of their own, school. I know what's going on because these kids are my family. They're my brothers and they're my sisters.
When I spoke with my mom, maybe like the third weekend, and she's like, how is it? And how's, Victoria? Because she's heard the name, and I'm like, I think I need to name like my firstborn after her or something. Like she is just a really powerful force.
The spirit of Bright Kids and of Victoria, it just was a perfect place where you could be useful and still sort of understand enough to bring back to advocate for the causes and the issues and the realities of Uganda and East Africa once coming back to the U.S.
I foresee myself being involved in Bright Kids and forever.
Victoria's commitment to her bright kids goes beyond their immediate survival. To protect many of the kids, she adopts them to ensure permanence and stability throughout their entire childhood into adulthood. Some of the bright kids have mothers and fathers, or mothers that are still alive. Some are orphaned, and a lot don't even know where their parents are. You've legally adopted. Esther is one of them. Why did you adopt Esther?
What happens in Uganda, for every child to be placed into a children's home, that child must have a court order to show that you legally have that child in the home. So I'm working on court orders for all those children, those other children. But then there are kids who are in my hands and who have no next of kin that I know of. So my fear was that in case I died, merely getting a court order for Esther, merely getting a court order for Arnold, who was born at the border with Rwanda and abandoned where he was born. What would happen to him if I died? If I didn't adopt him, if I didn't prepare an inheritance for him, what would happen to Arnold if I died when he's in the middle of his education? Forget if I lived long and I left him when he has graduated, he has a job, he has a wife, he can move on. But Arnold needs a family to belong to. There are some kids I'm helping because their parents died of AIDS, and they are in Bright Kids Uganda. Those ones have grandparents, they have uncles, they have families to fall back to. But I have kids who have no families to fall back to, and those are the kids I always believe I have to adopt and then set aside a fund for them.
Now you mentioned the
IDPC, Internally Displaced People's Camp.
And that's located in
northern Uganda.
We had traveled to Gulu to look at these camps.
Yeah, some of them are already dismantled now because the war is over.
This was the Lord's Resistance Army conflict.
The Lord's Resistance Army is one of these notorious groups that uses terror to maintain its influence and control. Their method was to capture, kidnap kids, 12, 14 years old, and threaten them with mutilation. The first thing they had to do when they were captured was, if they were with their families, they had to kill their parents and their brothers and sisters in order to ensure that they were criminal and that they had no one left in the world that would ever look for them. Then they were taken off into the bush, taught how to fight, taught how to serve the adult soldiers, and particularly the women, the girls, the 14-year-old girls. This ultimately affected around 300,000 people in the northern part of Uganda.
As a news editor of my paper, I used to edit stories all the time from northern Uganda. I used to look at them, we used to discuss them in the newsroom. We made jokes about them, we made jokes about people killing each other. I didn't understand the magnitude of the whole story. And because we had censored journalism, our journalists never brought the pictures of the children who were dying out there. We were not seeing the actual picture of what was happening in what the government has set up and called the internally displaced people's camps. And whenever I heard about them, I was asking other fellow journalists whether they understood what an internally displaced people's camp was, because I thought maybe it was like a refugee place. Then I said, but they can't be refugees in their own countries, because when you are in your own country, how can you be in a refugee camp? But here we were, Ugandans within Uganda and displaced, and they were living in these internally displaced people's camps, which we call IDPCs. Why they were living there, that's where government thought they would give them protection. That once somebody lived inside an internally displaced people's camp, then they were secure. Not until 2004, when we had the attack on Baronyo, which was publicized all over the world, where people were burnt in their huts, where the soldiers who are supposed to be protecting the people had all gone out to pick their salaries, and the rebels got to know that they had all gone to get their money from the bank, and they attacked the whole IDPC and set the huts on fire. The government came out with figures like 70 people dead. Bright Kids Uganda took on one of the most severely burnt kids. So I was challenged as head of scouting at that time to make a trip to northern Uganda.
For someone to go to northern Uganda at that time, it was frightening. We worried for her life. Every day there were headline stories in newspapers.
Landmines, people,
landmines and buses that were stopped,
abducted.
And people were, some abducted, those who were young, because the rebels were kidnapping young people, and the older ones were being hacked to death.
I remember how I lost my dad, but my mom, I don't know, because they took her when she was still alive, but my dad was crushed with an axe.
Did you see that happen?
I saw it happening.
Did your little brothers and sisters see it?
All of us, we saw it. It was the war which was in northern Uganda by the LRA.
It was unimaginable. You meet kids who are injured as they were running out from the rebels. They are rotting in the IDPCs. You meet kids like Ronald Abong. He had arrived in the IDPC 9 months earlier. All the clothes he came with were torn, but he's still going out there in the IDPC. He only arrived with a brother and sister, an elder brother and sister. He was about 6.5 years old. To me, he looked 3.5. Nobody cared about him, but they are in a government-protected place. Nobody bothered to give him clothing. His elder brother and sister would wake up every morning, go to town, and then wait for all the hotels, to finish serving people lunch. Then they would collect leftovers, eat whatever they can eat, and bring back the balance to Ronald Abong. I had gone there with some British Scout friends, and somebody brings Ronald Abong and puts him next to one of the British nurses. And the lady lifts up Ronald Abong and says, "Victoria, what can we do to this boy? He has no injury for me to dress, but he looks horrible." The boy couldn't stand on his own at 6.5 years. The eyes were almost closed. So I asked the camp leader whether I could take Ronald to the hospital, and he said, "You can go ahead and take him." We went back to the hotel. I went to my room, got out some money, went and bought some second-hand clothes, rushed back to the IDPC, dressed Ronald Abong and took him to the hospital. They directed me to the best clinic in town. And when I reached Dr. Otimu, I'll never forget his name because he was a wonderful doctor. And because I made him laugh because I thought he was a fool. Because when I reached there, I told him, "This boy is 3.5 years. He's about to die in the IDPC." He said, "No, the boy is 6. I said, "No, he's 3.5. He put his arm around and said, "If his arm is touching the ear, he must be 6+. Then I said, "Now what I want, forget about the age. I want him to be treated because he's sick." The doctor told me Ronald Abong was not sick. And I looked at the man and I told him, "If this boy is not sick, then you are sick." And he laughed. Because to me, Ronald Abong was very sick. Only to find out much later, according to the doctor, that all the swelling and whatever was on his body, it was because of sleeping out in the cold. And the doctor told me that if he continues in that condition, he has only 2 weeks to die because part of him is already dead. The cells that produce hair had already died. He had no hair on his head, and the scalp was very hard. So the doctor told me, either I give you medicine, and the only medicine I'm giving you is deworming to get the worms out of his tummy because he has this big tummy, I know he has worms, and multivitamins. The rest of the medicine is you. I took Ronald Abong back with me. And after 3 months with us, I woke up one morning when his skin was on the sheets. The skin had peeled off his head, and it was on the sheets. I was shocked. I thought he was going to die. Called Dr. Tim again, and he tells me, "Congratulations, I said, what? I think you didn't hear me well. I'm saying the boy is about to die because even the skin has gone off. And he says, congratulations, Victoria. The skin coming off, that means he's coming back to life. And when you say you washed his head and there were things piercing you, that's the hair which had died inside is now beginning to come out. So you will have to shave him every day until no more hair comes out. I couldn't believe him. But today, when I see Ronald playing in his school football team, when I see him with that big smile, when I see that for the last 2 years, he's always coming out on top of his class, I can't believe, Dr. Timo Moa, that he was actually coming back to life.
The vision of Bright Kids, to me, has a couple different points to it. I think on one level, it's about having a place to belong for those who have nowhere else to go. Kids from the IDPC camps who've been displaced by war, kids who've lost their parents to HIV/AIDS or just to circumstances of poverty. I've seen her take former child soldiers or children off of streets and bring them home and give them that love and food and clothing, and in a way that's beyond just the logistical things. You know, education, water, all those things, health is important, but she really makes each child feel like she is their parent. Like she gives them that root that makes life meaningful.
Yeah. Mommy, they told me that you were sick.
Yes, I was sick, but I'm better now.
God is good.
Every child has a story. Yeah. And I know the one story you told me that I still cannot believe to this day is Arnold. Arnold is very big and strong. Yeah. And he wasn't always big and strong. Mm-hmm. How did you find Arnold?
Arnold was born in western Uganda, southern Uganda, I would say, the very tip, near Rwanda, near the border with Rwanda. And the mother just abandoned him the day he was born.
So she gave birth.
And then I left the kid there because the people who found Ronald found him just covered with a sheet, but he was not dressed.
Who found it?
The farm manager was going to work at the farm in the morning, and as he walked towards the farm, he finds this trail of blood and thought that either they had stolen his cows or one of the cows had run out of the kraal at night and delivered outside. So when he folded the trail of blood, he found this baby lying there covered with one sheet. He raised an alarm, and the local leaders came in, and then the police was invited in order for them to be able to touch the baby. They feared to touch the baby, but the baby was alive.
The mother at night gave birth.
Maybe, yeah, or maybe even brought after delivering from somewhere, who knows. So the police said the girls working at the farm had to be rounded up. Probably they are the ones responsible. So they were all taken to a medical facility nearby. They were checked. Ronald was taken to that medical facility, was given tetanus injections, was given clothing and so on, and milk. Then eventually they transported Ronald to Nsambya Babies Home. And when he reached Nsambya Babies Home called me and said they were really full up. They were hard on milk and so on because so many babies had been brought in who were abandoned. I was ready to adopt Ronald in September of last year, after he had been brought in all the way since January. That's when I went in and we went to probation and welfare. This time they didn't have to visit my home. They had visited it so many times before. We had to sign some documents like usual, and you need a family member to be besides you, to witness. So we took in Arnold, and we have never been the same.
Victoria, all these kids have a horrendous story that they start with, and now they're all bright kids. Yeah. And you do really have a family, plus you and your staff. I pretty much know them all now, and every day is just as if you had a family of 3 or 4. Now, most of them are in boarding school most of the year, but you have about, 6 little ones and a couple of older ones that are around. How do you manage all these kids? What would a day be like at Bright Kids? That's a big story, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. It's not an easy one. Maybe first of all, I would like look at the day in life.
Your personal life?
Yeah, my personal life. Normally every day my alarm would go off at 6:30 in the morning.
Wow.
When it goes off, I make sure that I go and switch on the water heater switch because of Esther. And she knows that she's my child, so she refused to sleep with the other babies where they sleep. And therefore shares the same bedroom with me, which gives me a headache of having to wake up like the other nannies wake up at 6:30 in the morning, make sure that I have found her homework, exercise book, put it in her school bag, organize whether it's a sports day, then she has to put on sportswear. If it is a normal school day like Monday, Wednesday and Friday, she puts on uniform. Then Tuesday and Thursday is sportswear, shorts and t-shirt. So I have to organize those, the canvas shoes. And then I get her out of bed at 7, brushing her teeth and all that. She goes through that herself. She has learned to go through that, but then I have to help her bathe. And then after that, dress her up and her school bag on her back. We go down now to join the other babies, and then it's breakfast, and then the boda comes and takes them to school.
Now you said boda.
That's a motorcycle. Yeah, the motorcycle takes them to school.
How many on a motorcycle?
Sometimes they put 3, sometimes 4, and then come back for others. When they have gone to school, I always think I'm going to go back to bed, but it's very difficult. By the time they are off to school, it's around 7:30.
Bye, Mommy. Bye, Mommy. Bye, Mommy.
Bye. Then I just have to go into the food store and look at the program for feeding that day, because during the school time like now, not holidays, I have 19 kids and then the matron who remain down at the big children's home. So those 19 must have their food for the day. So you are looking at their lunch, you are looking at their dinner, and you are looking at the maize flour for their porridge the following morning, because the aunt prepares it in the evening and keeps it in flasks so that in the morning as they go to school it is already hot. You know, she doesn't have to wake up in the morning and warm it up. It's kept in the flasks.
This is cooked in like a separate little structure behind your house. And what we would call, I guess, the kitchen is basically fire and these big iron pots.
That's what they do even downstairs. During school time, we have about 39, 38 people in total to feed. That is school time. But during the holidays, we are 60 plus. You know, normally Sundays, they want special dishes. So we'll give them a bit of rice, a bit of chapati, maybe matoke, and a bit of beef or fish. Most of the cooking for the food and whatever is done using firewood.
Well, you lose electricity a lot.
It goes anytime. You can never know.
You can't predict.
They don't even tell us in advance that we won't have electricity the following day. You might even be in the middle of a meal and the power goes off. That's why you see me stationing those solar lamps very strategically, one on the dining table, one in the children's room, because immediately power goes off, then you have to switch on the solar lamps as an alternative.
And you're going solar.
Yeah, we are trying to ensure that almost everything, every house now has solar.
Now, when I was there, you had cows. Now, did you get your beef from the cows?
No.
No? Why do you have the cows?
Because I expect them to conceive and they can give us milk. Although these are local cows, their milk output is not so good. We have been looking at probably if we can sell them off and buy a Frisian cow, because that would give us like 20 liters or more every day, instead of looking after so many local cows. It's labor intensive and yet the output is not that big.
So you have sustainable energy now with solar, you have sustainable cow project. What else do you have?
We have a piggery project.
So is this sustainable right now, or are you still working on it?
We are still working on it because now we have just had our delivery, and we believe that once these ones have reached around 4 months, we will sell off 2, and we will sell off 3. We want to remain with just 1 female one so that we can have more of them producing. Then the money we get enables us to buy feeds for these ones, because now we have been buying feeds and picking grass and other leftovers from the house for them. But if we get to sell these ones, we buy more feeds and feed them better, and then leave 1 female so that now we can have 2 females producing.
Now, one of your staff members, Paulo, now he takes care of the animals, and especially you have lots of chickens.
The broilers? After every 2 months.
So they get sold after 2 months?
If you can sell 8 of them, you'll be getting 800,000, which is slightly above $300, and yet the cost up to selling time is about $200. Buying them and feeding them up to selling time.
So how much do you make out of this?
We make more than $100, and on top of that we leave some for the children to eat.
Now they lay eggs.
No, the layers are different.
Oh, the layers are different than the broilers.
So you remember the browns which were 500? Those ones are beginning to lay eggs in November. And I believe in about 4 months' time they will be at their peak, whereby they can give us like maybe 15 or so trays a day. At the peak of 500 birds, you can have maybe 400 laying every day. That's good money.
First of all, they benefit because they get eggs, which I remember 4 years ago, they weren't having eggs or chicken in their diet. Secondly, they learn how to take care of these animals. So that's a skill, that's a real life skill. And then you train, I know Richard, and if any other bright kids have this accounting interest, they learn how to handle a business.
To do bookkeeping, because they have to record everything.
This is really your 100% sustainable project that's working in many, many different ways.
Exactly.
And now you have future projects. You want to have a farm project that you also are working on, buying some land near the water and also raise produce on a bigger scale than what you have now.
Most people I talk to, they say, wow, your biggest challenge is tuition, because you have to pay school fees all the time. You know, you have to pay school fees for these kids, and it's like the biggest budget. But actually, to me, the biggest challenge is feeding. With the tuition, I go to the schools and I talk to these head teachers, and I take them, look here, these kids are mine as well as yours. You have to be patient with me. As I get money, I'll be bringing in money and paying you. But I can't go to any grocery and tell somebody to give me food on credit. You know, they can't wait. You have to go with the money. And with the food, there's no kid I'm going to tell that I have no money today. You can wait and eat tomorrow. They will not go to school tomorrow if they haven't eaten. They will not even sleep. They will be crying all the time. They will be not sleeping in the house.
So basically, you want to have sustainability to run the children's home.
Exactly.
And still rely on people sponsoring for the tuition, because that's very, very expensive. Yeah. So if you have bright kids, the compound, you know, the children's dormitories, totally sustainable because of all these projects, then you can focus in on the tuition.
Sustainability is very important. You know, you can't run a children's home when you are depending on donor funding for everything.
The health clinic is one of the most important sustainable projects that Victoria has developed for both the Bright Kids children and, just as importantly, the surrounding community that desperately needs access to medical care.
You know, Victoria, one of the best things this year has happened with Bright Kids is that Florida State University and then Global Peace Exchange came up with a surprise $3,400 some odd dollars, and they said, we're going to go to Uganda this summer and we're going to build a health clinic. And I went, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. And then I heard that 5 interns, volunteers from Florida State University, were going through the Global Peace Exchange in Tallahassee, that they were going to come to Uganda and stay a couple months with you and literally build this clinic.
Then they sponsored the building of the clinic right from the digging of the foundation. We hired expert builders. Then I went with them to the shops to purchase all the building materials which were required for the initial part of the work. And by the time they left, at least we had finished even the second floor.
That was June, late June.
And by the time I left to come over here, first of all, we had a nurse being recruited. We had interviewed some 3 people and zeroed down on one because she had good qualifications. And the other thing was that she was an orphan. She grew up as a total orphan. So I thought she would have a heart.
It was my dream since childhood, because I used to see nurses working upon patients, giving that care. So I also felt it and I really loved it, taking care of someone who's like not feeling well.
Gloria Namasoki was one bright kid who didn't graduate, but she had the most profound impact on Victoria. Gloria was a beautiful little girl who loved to sing and clap. She was always around with the help and love of all of the Bright Kids children.
We don't want people to forget about Gloria. That's why we do things that will make everybody remember Gloria every day, like our clinic now being named after Gloria.
She couldn't walk, so she would kind of crawl on the ground. She couldn't speak. She had severe mental and developmental disabilities. So she would just kind of crawl. She would cry a lot. That was kind of how she expressed herself, was when she needed something, she would cry. But she was like one of the first kids who came up running in the morning when I woke up, and she came up and she just like hugged me and sat on me. I was like 8-year-old kid, but kind of like compressed, you know?
You don't see a lot of kids who have disabilities around Uganda. I saw maybe 2 people out on the streets that, were disabled. So they're hidden, they're somewhere. I mean, there have got to be a lot of people with disabilities.
If a family had a child with disabilities, first of all, they take it as a curse.
A curse.
Maybe your family did something wrong. Sometimes there are even men who can chase away their wives because they have given birth to kids with disabilities. When Gloria was born, I understand she went for an operation because she developed some swellings. And when they took her for operation, she just went on continuing being disabled. They thought probably they would change the situation. And both parents were drunkards. So after the operation, I believe they realized they couldn't manage Gloria, so they got Gloria and her sister Foster, and they abandoned them by the railway line. Fortunately, it is a densely populated area, so the 2 kids were spotted very quickly and the police was called in. Then they were taken to Nsambya Hospital first, and statements were taken from the people who first saw them. And after seeing the situation of the parents, the 2 kids were taken to Nsambya Babies Home. And it took Foster, Gloria's sister, about 3 months to be adopted. She was 1.5 years. Gloria was like about 3 or 2.5 years. But nobody would adopt Gloria because she was having these disabilities. And when Gloria reached 6 years, Nsambya Babies Home told me, Madam Chairperson, Gloria has outgrown this home. We are going to take her to our rural home. There is a rural home attached to Nsambya Babies Home, where they take all the kids who end up not being adopted when they reach 6. And I was asking this sister, who is the head of Nsambya Babies Home, how Gloria would manage in our rural home, which is an extension of Nsambya Babies Home. And then I was wondering, how is she going to grow up without a family? I had all these questions in my head. So I told the sister that I wanted to give Gloria a family. I wanted to give Gloria what she would call home. I had always told them that I would one day adopt a kid from here, but they didn't think I would adopt Gloria. So when I said Gloria, they said, Gloria? Will you manage her? Will you tolerate her? You know her problems? I said, yes, I know. So she was asking me, will you manage? I said, I'll give it a try. Maybe there will be more chances if she's with me to go to school, to find a school where she can go, and to be loved. After they had visited my home like 2-3 times, they made a report. and we went to court, and then Gloria was officially handed over to me as my adopted child. It was a big challenge for me because I had never been confronted by a situation of a child with disabilities. Many things I didn't know what to do, and I had nobody to run to. There's no place where I can go for consultancy. Unfortunately, all the schools I went to were turning me down.
Why?
One disappointed me so much. After spending a lot of money, he told me I had to go to their doctor, who was very expensive, to check Gloria and fill in a form. I paid all the money. I hired a vehicle to put in Gloria. We spent the whole day out in town, and she goes through all these checkups. Then when we reached the school, they told us that they couldn't admit her because the doctor on her form had said that she needed training for going to the loo.
Because she was in diapers.
They told me they couldn't take her, that I had to train her first. I said, my God, this is one of the reasons why I'm bringing this girl over to you, because I don't know what to do with her. I've been with her for 6+ years, and I can't do it. So I thought, since you people are specially trained, you would do that for me. And the school turned her down. And then I got to this other school in Entebbe, which was near us, where I took her. But of course, again, they asked for medical form, which we gave them. And they asked me to pay special money for a matron who would be changing her diapers. So besides the tuition, which I paid for her to be in boarding school, I had to pay money monthly for the matron who would change her diapers. And it hurt me so much that after my girl being in school for only 2 weeks, I go there to visit her. And then reaching there, I found her in her wheelchair outside the classroom. She was so tiny. Within 2 weeks, I asked her, Gloria, what has happened? She just shouted, Mama, 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 and started shouting. I hugged her, only to find that she had vomited on her apron. The teacher was seated under a mango tree with other kids because Gloria had vomited in the classroom. Can you imagine? The matron was cleaning the classroom before cleaning Gloria. It looked like there was a lot of negligence. I felt so bad. I looked at my daughter. It's not the Gloria I knew. And then we went to the hospital. She was put on drip. I don't know whether she crawled and ate something because people didn't care.
They didn't care.
I had so many questions. I would have been happier probably if I had an explanation as to what happened to Gloria. If Gloria could talk to me, but she couldn't talk to me. She always struggled to come off the bed and come to me. She wanted to come to me all the time. But of course she was on drip. I tried to make that last soup because the doctor told me to go home and make some soup. And I made some mushroom soup, and I told the doctor, let her have the soup. I'm having my dinner and coming over. And before I completed the dressing, I was in my bedroom, dressing to go and sleep over again. And the doctor gives me a call and says, I think we have lost Gloria. And that was the saddest moment of my life.
Well, Victoria, when I came to Uganda this last July, I knew Gloria had died. And you had taken me to see her grave. She was your adopted daughter. So you buried her where you're going to be buried, on Bright Kids ground. Did see her grave. It's built high above the ground. We had a tombstone with her picture on it, and then rest in peace in 2000 to 2012.
Sometimes it's until somebody is not there that you realize how important they are in your life. Gloria was so important in my life because at one time all the Bright Kids went to school. The only child who remained with me at home and who sang with me and who cheered me up was Gloria. I didn't know that my neighbors and the people who visited my home noticed Gloria. I didn't know, not until she died, that I knew that so many people on the village knew Gloria. And when all these people turned up, because I hadn't announced it on radio, I just called the person who adopted her sister that very night, yeah, so that her sister could be around for burial. I called in Zambia Baby's home. I called a few friends, the directors on the board of Bright Kids Uganda. But I was shocked the following day. People turned up in big numbers. And as they came in, I was asking them, did you know Gloria? They said, oh yes, this is the person who welcomes us to your home every day. When we come, she tries to stand up, leaning on us and welcoming us. I didn't know Gloria was welcoming people into our house. So everybody knew her. And I believe it was a blessing that I had Gloria in my life.
So you're a business manager, you're a chicken expert, and an animal expert. You are a social worker, because many of these kids come with real problems. If you were in a camp, you're traumatized. They all are. You take care of the infants, you take care of the teenagers, transportation, and I could name on, but most of all, you're their mom.
I think what I have tried to do in my whole life is to try to live as a woman. Have I ever told you what a woman is?
No.
I have to live as a woman. Those letters, the woman. A woman is a worker. A woman is an organizer. A woman is a manager. A woman is an administrator. A woman is a negotiator.
Okay.
That's the complete word. Woman, W-O-M-A-N. I try to do a bit of everything. Trying to be a jack of all trade, but a master of none, because that's what, as a journalist, I am.
You started out as a fisherman's daughter, poor, and now look at you. Yeah. Should be very proud of yourself, Victoria.
More proud of my father, who enabled me to get the education.
You surely are a savior for these kids. So out of all the kids, only 2 had died. And had you not taken them in, what did we figure, 95% would be dead?
Yeah, would be dead.
Victoria, then you said, like Arnold, you just made up a name. And you really didn't know when he was born. And I know when Esther was found abandoned, you didn't know. They said 2 months, but I think she was only a week old because her umbilical cord had not been even healed. How do you determine their birth dates? I mean, how do you determine a name?
Yeah, I think the most challenging bit is arriving at a name. Arnold, I wasn't so challenged because I prepared for him for months. And then I said, but what will the name be? Because this is a different tribe. I need to give him a name which that is not attached to any tribe.
Oh, really?
Because he's not my tribe. And I don't want to like be enslaving them by giving them my tribal names, you know, like I'm taking them over. So I thought that he was something precious. So I just said, he will be Tendo. Then my daughter said, we need something, a name which makes a meaning in the Bible. He will be Jeremiah. So that's why he's Jeremy, you know. And then his names came. But then Arnold, because he was picked on a certain day, so that day when he was picked, 8th January, we believe that's the day he was born. Maybe he was born 7th or whatever, but we don't care. He was picked on 8th January. So we celebrate Arnold's birthday every 8th January. Esther was abandoned on 22nd May 2009. But the day I received her in my hands, 23rd May 2009. I don't know whether she was born in April or whatever. I don't care. Her birthday is 23rd May 2009. And so every 23rd May, we observe her birthday. So all of my children who are in Bright Kids have their birthdays. Right. And we celebrate them, even if they fall when they are away in boarding school. We will at least combine. There are times when we have birthdays for like 3 people, but we will make the small cakes. I will go out of my way to make the small cakes, and they blow the candles, and there's the cutting of the cakes, and then they will serve and sweets and so on and so forth.
Happy birthday, Esther. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Esther. Happy birthday to you.
You look like a monkey.
And you have Christian names, and then they have, I guess, a Ugandan name.
I have given out most of my sisters' names to kids. I've given out most of my friends' names. Sometimes I consult some of my friends when I want to give out their names to the kids as they come in. You know, I consult them and they say, yeah, it's okay, no problem. Then I'll have another child there, you know. We joke about it.
You picked a Christian name and an African name. Yeah. Why both?
Because they need them. For example, I named Esther Kwagala. I named her Esther Kwagala. Kwagala meaning love. But when some people started visiting home and saying that Esther looked like she came from Western Uganda, then I added the name Ankunda. Ankunda again means love. And she knows her 3 names. She will tell you, I'm Esther Kwagala Ankunda.
So the children will have a Christian name.
Yeah.
Then they'll have
a family name.
When the Bright Kids graduate from vocational or secondary school and pass the required exams, they move on to higher education or a career. I had the opportunity in 2012 to interview several of the Bright Kids who finished their schooling and who now are on their own. One of them was Habib Magezi.
Habib, you've come a long way with Victoria.
Yeah.
What year did you come here?
I came in, it was 2000, at the start of 2000.
Before I started Bright Kids Uganda, because that's when his mom died. What I actually remember is going to pick him up from his uncle's place, and his uncle telling him that from today onwards, never look at me. Your mother wished that you remain with this lady. And his uncle was also meeting me like for the 3rd time, because we had just met when I went to visit his mom when she was on her deathbed. So we met twice with the uncle. And now the 3rd time to meet was just when he was telling Habib that from today onwards, your mom wished that you stay with this lady who is her friend. And that was her decision, and she repeated it again even before she died, so I'm handing you over to her.
How old were you, Habib?
About 10, 11 years old at the time.
Were you scared?
Of course, how could you?
Of course. I'd heard of, at Mom's burial, they read out a letter. I'd heard of Mom's name. Told me that Mom's best friend was going to take care of me. But in my heart, it's someone who had never seen me, but someone who loved me even before seeing me. That was so challenging to me as a kid. I was wondering, this person who is willing to take care of me, despite everything. I've lost my mom, I lost my dad, that is my dad, but my mom's friend whom I've not seen, I've seen very many other friends of my mom, but this particular friend of mom I've not seen before. But she's written a letter and she's saying she's going to take care of my everything, studies, everything, which means this person has loved me even before seeing me.
I had to put him in a boarding school. At that time I was so busy because I was working in the president's office. I didn't have time, to be there for him all the time. So I preferred that the best thing was for him to be in a boarding school so that during the holidays when they are back home, I'm able to be there.
Now, Victoria told us a little bit about your family. What happened to your dad? I mean, why did you end up being here at Sunrise Village and now Bright Kids?
He died in a plane crash. There's a Uganda Airlines plane crash that happened at Rome in 1988, around October. I don't know the exact date, but it was that year of 1988. I was born in 87 in November. He died when I was 9 months old. At that tender age, I grew up with my mom. She was also a young lady at the time, because she gave birth to me when she was around 20 years old. Yeah. So, her being young with me at the same time, we went through all the struggles through the 90s when I was a kid, until she got sick and passed away. That was in 90. She got sick in 99. She got sick almost for a full year.
And that was with AIDS.
Yeah.
What was it like when you were in at Bright Kids? What it meant to be? It was really called Sunrise Village at the time.
Yeah, being at Sunrise Village was a great opportunity, because what I liked about the whole experience was we were one big family. The whole sharing together as a big family. There's no boredom. If you had to play a game, you wouldn't have to go around the neighborhood to get other kids to get the number you wanted to get the football match or the other game going. We were just one big family, and we'd play together, eat together, laugh together, and you find that we are all there together, sharing, laughing, and having fun.
What did Victoria emphasize the most when you were here?
She instilled in us the heart of loving education, to read, because it is through education and the books that would help us become better people.
And do you feel that her advice was good?
Yeah, it was good, because there is nothing that a parent can give you apart from education.
Wow.
Fine, a parent can take you to a supermarket, buy you this. You'll eat the ice cream, you'll eat the cakes, you'll eat everything, and that's done. But a parent who gives you education is the best parent ever. We were so many, but she would take that time.
How many were there at the time?
We were more than 10.
More than 10, and yet with all of those, she was individually with you.
Yes.
What are you doing now?
Now I'm working and schooling at the same time.
Now, what do you do at school, and where are you going to school?
Well, I go to Ndeje University. Ndeje University is one of the oldest private institutions in Uganda. I'm in the Faculty of Engineering, Department of Electrical Engineering.
And that's what you want to go into?
Yes.
Through Victoria's determination, her hard work, her compassion, her love, and her vision, she has created a loving environment and encouraged a very strong desire to learn. Her mantra: education, education, education.
Probably one of the greatest things about working at Bright Kids Uganda was actually being able to work with the children. And what struck me the most about these children is that, they come from such poor backgrounds, and some of them have no family. They have had nobody to care for them. But these children that I worked with this summer are some of the most amazing children I have ever met, because they were kind, they were giving, they would share anything that they had with you, and they were so thankful for the smallest thing that they might get, something that you or I would take for granted, or certainly, that children here in the States would take for granted. And they really valued their education. Every one of them was so excited to be in school.
Actually, I'm sponsoring a child that I'm a graduate student. I don't really have any money, but I'm sponsoring Edrine Bukenya, because he was just, a completely inspiring child for me. And Eddie was kind enough to take me to see his school, and he went to Kennedy Secondary, and he walked an hour and a half every morning to go to school, and an hour and a half every night to come home. When we went, we took 2 bodabodas, which are motorcycle taxis, and 1 matatu, which is like a bus taxi, and to get to his school. And the whole time we're riding, I'm thinking, this kid walks. He walks this every morning and every night. And then he's got to do homework, and he has to help, take care of the younger boys, and he has to do dishes. All of that stuff is part of what he has to do.
There were moments where you just remembered when you stop seeing people as victims and you just see them as people, like that happened very quickly, and you just enjoyed their time and you played with them, their children. But there are always those moments where it just hits you like, wow, they've come from really terrible places, and they're very little people that, even there, they have a lot of responsibility. Like, in order to make that place work and function, they have chores that, looking here, like those are things that kids here just would never, ever do. I feel like we think kids are incapable of doing, and they have to do it. But even though they have to do this work and, do this, their lives are significantly better.
So all of this, that's what Mommy's kind of doing with her organization, is creating an avenue for children who haven't received certain opportunities to be able to at least get those opportunities. And then what they do with it in the future is hopefully something very successful, sustainable in their lives.
If we educate these kids, they'll be productive members of society, and they'll have a chance that they're not given in any other circumstances. It pulls them off the streets, educates them, and allows them to have futures.
We the children of this world, we the future generation, we the children of the sunshine, we the leaders for tomorrow. Bright Kids is a lovely home we live in here, a place of paradise. Join us, say, Bright Kids, we shall rise again.
We are
children of this land, we the future generation, we the children of the sunshine, we the leaders for tomorrow. Bright Kids is a lovely home we live in here, the place of paradise. Join us, say, Bright Kids, we shall rise again. Join us, say, Bright Kids, we shall rise again.